Sounds correct. Welcome, Realm family, to another episode of Wrestling with the Realm podcast. I'm Brian, one half of the power and glory of wrestling podcasts, and on the other side, he is the Hercules to my Paul Roma. It's my guy Will. Will, what are we talking about?
Guys, we're talking about a few things that me and Brian have been just kind of talking about at work with the releases. We have a few new champions that we want to touch on, a
Mhm.
few new signings, one that just happened kind of as we speak. We
Yeah.
kind of knew it was
Now,
going to happen. Yeah, like right now, we can start with that. Mariah May in NXT. Feel bad for JC Jane. She just got that title. She is dropping that title. Like, ASAP. I thought it was going to be Jordan Grace. Apparently,
yeah,
Jordan Grace is on her way to SmackDown, apparently. And I was like, man, that leaves kind of a void. They pulled up all this talent. Like,
mm,
you're talking the big four. Can we call it maybe the current four horsewomen with Roxanne Perez, Julia, Stephanie Vaquer, and Jordan Grace? Maybe. That's a
50% of the money in the bank match is
yeah,
is
serious.
those call-ups, so that ain't nothing.
Yeah, and I was like, who's gonna fill that void? Well, they found their person. Mariah May. Apparently they're gonna be calling her Mariah March or something. I saw that. It could be a joke, and I'm just taking it too too literally with the month name, but very exciting regardless.
Just gonna call her M squared.
Yeah. We can maybe we can talk about a few of the other signings and their new names. JC Mateo. JC
Yeah,
Mateo.
and that one they were like the announcers were working it hard trying to get that JC Mateo over. That was kind of funny. But yeah, M squared coming to NXT, like that's kind of exciting because you make a good point that we're bringing all this talent up,
Mhm.
and I mean there's still people down in NXT who I go they're on the next layer of people that are
Yeah.
going to be coming up, especially in the women's division. The women's division is just so crowded where you say Sol Ruka and Kaylani Jordan can't be too far out from
Yeah.
main roster call-ups, especially with the work that they've been doing. So like you can kind of see kind of the flow of how we're moving the talent and kind of who's next in line. So it makes sense. You bring in M squared. And so I
Mhm.
think they're doing a really good job with cultivating that women's division. This goes back to what Triple H said when he was talking about how you train wrestlers, that he said that the women are light years ahead of the men. He said you'll take some people if they come from, an athletic background, and he's like within 6 months they're where some of the men are in 2 years.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense with this women's division. You can see how they're doing a really good job of homegrown talent and then peppering in signings from indies and other promotions. But it's just keeping that pipeline going. And
Yeah.
it's good. M squared.
It is. I'm very excited for that. I think majority of fans are super excited to that signing, which kind of brings us into our next topic, a little bit of a sadder topic, to be quite honest with you. We had two WWE legends, two future WWE Hall of Famers in my book. R Truth and Carlito have both been released from the WWE. And very rarely do we talk about releases here on the podcast. But man, I texted Brian right away when I
Yeah.
saw this after my basketball tournament. Disappointed, really disappointed. It felt almost distasteful after the last few weeks, which we'll touch a little bit on the Judgment Day storyline in a little bit.
Hmm.
Carlito has been hilarious. And our truth, the Friday before he got released, had an absolutely hilarious promo where he called JC Mateo Solo Sikoa's husky son.
Yep, that was so funny.
That
That
was
was
hilarious.
so funny.
And in a time where WWE television has just been okay at best, we can't keep lying to ourselves.
Hmm.
WWE needs to step it up. Ever since the TKO merger, it's kind of been on a downhill spiral. Can we say that? I think it's time we start criticizing the product just a little bit. You have great storylines, but the overall product has not been amazing. And you can chalk that up to whoever you want, a few different people, a few different final bosses if you want to. But I felt like Carlito, the Judgment Day, and R-Truth, and what he was doing on SmackDown as Ron Cena, it just brought a little joy when they came on screen. So for them to be released felt just distasteful. Brian, what are your thoughts on it?
I was so surprised by it. I kind of get it with Carlito, and Carlito kind of said it on his way out on his
Yeah,
social media that, he was basically stealing from the company. If you've watched him on Monday nights, he knows that it's not like he's not LA Knight or, Seth Rollins or somebody who's out there week in and week out
yeah,
working in the ring. He's well aware of that. Um, but what he brought to the storyline and to the Judgment Day is one of those just little extras that we may not have appreciated it when it was there, but we're going to notice it when it's gone now. Like I was telling Will, what Carlito brought to what I think is the best story that they have going right now with Judgment Day is Carlito was always kind of like us, the audience, with Dom. There's a few weeks ago when Liv is in Japan and not filming the Spider-Man movie that Dave Meltzer said she was supposed to be in. She's over there filming, and Dom can't figure out the international date line. So, like, Carlito comes back later and he's got a whole mock-up of a ball, and they got they're going to try to show him exactly how the earth turns and how he can figure this out. But Carlito brings so much to that humor. Or just, a couple of weeks ago when Roxanne brings the nuggets to Dom and he's eating them, and then Liv walks up at the end of that whole bit, all Carlito says is, "Man, you got to stop eating those nuggets." And it's like so funny because that's us. And there was even one, it was a few months ago, and it was one of my favorite Carlito lines ever. It was with the Judgment Day, that same thing where Dom is doing his thing and Finn and him are going back and forth, and Dom is just kind of being very Dom about the whole thing and being very glib. And right before they leave, before the camera leaves, Carlito just looks at Dom and says, "You don't watch the show, do you?" And it's like, that's so funny because he's again being us, the audience. It's just that little bit of humor that we're gonna miss now that it's gone. And it's the same thing with R-Truth. I was singing his praises um, ever since Mania with the roast to WrestleMania, and just saying how even in that capacity, he brings something and he has such great comic timing and he makes it work without ever becoming a character that we're laughing at. We're always laughing with him. And based off of the reaction on Monday night and from fans online, I feel like everybody has that same feeling that everybody loves R-Truth.
yeah,
And it's rare for a big community and group of people to agree on one thing like that, but everybody does. Everybody loves R-Truth. The work that he did on Saturday night's main event, I
yeah,
loved it. I thought that match with John Cena, it was my favorite Saturday night's main event that they've done since they brought it back. And that was one of the reasons why, because it felt like one of those older 80s or 90s Saturday night's main event because of that, especially because we've been watching a lot of that older stuff for our retro rewatches. That match in particular, because R-Truth comes out to Cena's music. He's dressed like him. He has a
yeah,
shirt that looks the same, only it's our truth instead of John Cena, and it says, Ron Cena on the shirt, which, by the way, that shirt is sold out on WWE Shop.
Criminal.
So you have somebody who's selling merch who fans generally love, and it seems like everybody back in the locker room and at WWE love our truth, that it just makes you, it really makes you think about that decision because I think Dave Meltzer is reporting that it's Triple H that made these decisions and that's it. And we know how good Dave's uh, information is because, again, he was sure that Liv was off having a cameo in the new Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, don't listen to that
So
stuff, guys.
don't listen to Dave because this seems like a TKO decision when you're looking at what they're cutting. And it's really starting to feel like they want to get that return on their investment sooner rather than later. I mean, it goes hand in hand with moving WrestleMania from New Orleans to try to go back to Vegas again because there's more revenue. These are things that we've been noticing, and I feel like it's finally coming to a head with these two releases where people are really starting to see that how much influence does TKO have over the product.
Yeah, that's a true true statement there. TKO does have a lot of influence over this product. You're seeing it on weekly television, you're seeing it in the releases, and it's just kind of putting a negative light around the WWE. Like you said, I've never seen so many fans, the IWC, the fans in the audience, which are very different from the IWC,
Hmm.
and people like me and you, where we're somewhere in between that.
Right.
We're not the IWC, even though we're on here
Yeah.
having a conversation. We have a whole YouTube
Yeah.
channel, and we probably relate a little bit more to the actual fans in the
Yeah.
stands more than anything. But everyone is upset by these two releases, and it's because no one capitalized on the little amount of time that they were given, like those two guys. Like, you could give Carlito 25 seconds and he's going to kill it. You could give Ron Cena 2 minutes,
You're
a
right.
5 minute match, a 30-second segment in the back. No matter what, he's gonna make the most of it. I'm worrying as you see all of these people getting released that you're gonna have less and less of that. And that's because TKO doesn't value that as much as the casual fan does. Even the IWC, we value that type of stuff as wrestling fans, as a whole community. We value the little things.
Hmm.
We're losing more and more of that, and that's where this frustration, why fans are upset, that's where all this is coming from. So I couldn't agree with you more, Brian. This is just kind of sad news, and you said it. People in the back are upset. The talent's a little upset. In particular, the Miz
Yeah.
has taken all WWE stuff out of his bio. He's unfollowed the company, which, don't read too much into this stuff, guys. The Miz could be on TV this Friday. He really could be. But his contract's up at the end of the year.
Right.
So, are we going to lose the Miz now? Also, another weird one that I'm going to touch on is, and he's not going anywhere. He was on Raw 2 nights ago.
Oh, okay. I was just double checking to see you're gonna say who I was thinking.
Gunther.
Yes.
I'm I'm not buying. Gunther re-signed.
Yeah.
He did. He has his own bus.
Yep.
He's on TV all the time. There's a chance next Monday he wins the title back.
Yep.
That's very realistic. I don't know exactly what he's upset about, but if you're having talent at the top, talented at the middle, and talent at the bottom that's all upset with the new management, I just think as a company something is not going right. You're trending towards a bad spot, and typically WWE is a roller coaster.
Yep.
I've been on the ride before. Trust me.
Hmm.
We went from Summer of Punk all the way back down. And then Daniel Bryan with the yes movement, he brought us back up. And then we went down again. And then we got back to the top. Roman, Cody, the Bloodline storyline, it took us there. It really did. And I swear, I back then I couldn't tell you the moment that it started to go back down. But the TKO merger, WrestleMania 41's main event, it feels like, Brian, we're going back down. We really are.
Man, it's so funny you say about that roller coaster because I rode that same roller coaster from the rock and wrestling time to the peak of Hulkamania and WrestleMania 6 and that golden age, then down into the new generation. But we had to go through that to get to the Attitude Era. And then we went back up again. And that, so like you said, it's always going to be a roller coaster. You're going to have peaks and you're going to have valleys. The thing that stands out with R-Truth and Carlito is that everything that you were just saying makes you feel like they're not just losing those guys for what they can do on screen. It feels like you're losing a little bit of the heart that goes into the product. And when you take away some of those pieces like that, again, we may not have appreciated it when it was there, but you're going to miss it when it's gone. And when we think about TKO, I think about it's the TKO merger, and then it's that Raw premiere on Netflix. I feel like that's the point where things started to come into focus because TKO doesn't know the business. And I hate to sound that way because I don't want to sound like Jim Cornette and I don't want to sound like we're, the IWC, which we're saying that a lot this podcast, but we really do. Will and I just try to be fans just like you guys. And that's kind of the point that if just fans like us, like Will said,
Yeah,
if we pick up on it, that means something. So when you see TKO and they make certain moves, even just fans can tell that they don't understand the business of professional wrestling. It's not to say that they're not good at what they do,
yeah,
but there's a difference between those two things, between wanting to get the return on that investment and wanting to understand the ebbs and flows of the business, like you were just saying, Will. It's a roller coaster. And if you want that instant gratification of getting a return on investment and thinking about the revenue, you start to make decisions that aren't necessarily what's best for business. Do I have permission to make an analogy?
absolutely.
I feel like this is an apt one. Being a Disney fan, like we are fans of the theme parks and all the things that go into that with Walt Disney and, how he became who he was, how he built Disneyland, then you get into Disney World and yada yada, and how that whole company works is super interesting and we're big fans of it. Um, when Walt ran the company, he was one person who made the decisions, but it was the way Walt wanted it to be run. There's a famous story that one year it was for it could have been the 64 World's Fair. So he had a bunch of pavilions already. I think they had three or four um, pavilions that Disney was doing for that World's Fair. And one day, UNICEF called and talked to somebody, and they wanted to sponsor an attraction, and they wanted Disney to make it. And the person said, we would love to, but we're already doing, you know, three pavilions, so we just won't be able to do it. Um, that got back to Walt, and Walt said, "You don't get to decide if we're doing that. I get to decide if we're doing that." So he made the person call up UNICEF and say, yes, they will do it. And that's actually what turned out to be Small World. Um, so that's how that all came to be because it was Walt who says, we're doing it or we're not doing it. It's one person. Then you fast forward and you get to the Disney company today, and they purchase Star Wars as just an example where you go, well, Disney is a great company. They buy Star Wars, and over the course of the time that they've owned it, we've seen that product become less and less once they were involved in it. It's still Star Wars. You still have people making Star Wars. You still have Lucasfilms, but for some reason, their involvement has changed that product and fans started reacting to it. Now, you have a good comparison there between TKO buying WWE and not fully understanding it, like Disney doesn't understand Star Wars, and then you start to get diminishing returns. And there's another story about Walt Disney that always reminds me of this because it reminds me with the R-Truth and the Carlito releases that in the wrestling business they're valuable pieces because of that little bit that they bring, because they bring heart and they bring a little different element, but it's
Yeah,
necessary.
it is.
When you remove it, yes, you might be cutting payroll, so you're going to be saving in the long run, but you're not thinking down the road. Walt Disney used to give out at Disneyland a hard covered basically a brochure for Disneyland. It was full color, hardcover coffee table book that you could get for free at
Mhm.
Disneyland. And his brother Roy comes to him one day. Roy was the money man, and he said, "Walt, what are we doing? We're spending all this money on these books. We don't need to do that for free. We can charge for them." Or we could just go and we can just make a pamphlet with that same thing. What are we doing? It doesn't make sense. And he said, "No, you don't understand. Every person who takes that book home is going to put it on the coffee table in their living room, and every person that comes to their house is going to pick that up and they're going to look through it and they're going to want to come to Disneyland." He goes, "You can't put a price on that. Yes, we're paying for it right now, but you're never going to be able to calculate how much we're getting back on the back end because of that. It's
Yeah.
costing us up front, but on the back end, we're going to get it back." And these releases just kind of remind me of that, where you go, I understand on paper it looks like a good idea, but you're losing something that's going to be noticed. And again, the reaction on Monday Night Raw kind of speaks for itself that everybody kind of feels the same way.
Yeah. That was about as negative as we get on WWR, but I feel like it's good that we can talk about the product when it's great and when it's not so great. But Brian, let's focus on a little positive here. I have a topic that I want to talk on, something that I'm willing to say it. I think we have a new NXT GOAT. I
Oh,
think that Trick Williams is the greatest NXT wrestler of all time.
wow.
And
Wow.
I'm going through it. First of all,
Wow.
there is not a single person that has been featured on more NXT premium live events. He is a two-time NXT champion. He's a one-time NXT North American champion. He's the winner of the Men's Iron Survivor Challenge in 2023. And now he's your new TNA World Champion. Now, say what you want. Here's where I'm going to get some people coming at me. TNA is not a part of WWE. Totally understood. Totally understood. But he is carrying another brand's world championship around on NXT. And if we are talking about impact on the business, if you would have told me that was happening 2 years ago, would not believe you. Wouldn't believe you. And I know Mickey James made an appearance at the Royal Rumble in 2023, 2022 with the TNA Knockouts Women's Championship, but they didn't even know she was the TNA Knockouts champion. They didn't even know that when they asked her to appear. So she just walked out with it. That was crazy enough. But now you have Trick Williams as the TNA World Champion on NXT. an even more baller move by him. He didn't even show up to TNA the week after he won the
Yeah.
title.
Yeah.
That is so cool. That is so baller.
It's in
I'm talking about
character. I love it.
it is.
Yeah.
And we're talking about multiple different versions of Trick Williams that have impacted NXT. He was amazing as Carmelo Hayes' hype guy. He was phenomenal. When he used to come out and talk about the banners that Carmelo Hayes was collecting, when
Hmm.
Carmelo Hayes used to beat people, he used to hang their banner in the rafters in his
Oh,
little
that's great.
oh, it was his intro. And Trick would talk about each person he beat, and then he would talk some smack about whoever he was going to face. And he was perfect in that role. But then people started to want more and more and more of Trick Williams. So he reinvented himself. He was the ultimate underdog. And then he eventually beat Ilya Dragunov for his
Hmm.
first NXT World Championship. He also beat Dominic Mysterio before that for the North American champion. He's one of a handful of people to be a two-time NXT champion. During that second NXT title run, he reinvented himself again. Now he's more of an edgy,
Hmm.
badass, baller character. And I think this is the best version of him possible. He just defeated Joe Hendry for the TNA World
Yep.
Championship. Now I have some other guys that could compete with him. First, I know everyone's go to is either Adam Cole or Johnny Gargano,
Hmm.
and that's fair.
Yep.
Adam Cole held that title for 403 days. Johnny Gargano, he was not only a three-time North American champion, he was also a one-time tag team champion and a one-time NXT champion. I have one other name, and this is probably who I would actually go with, and that's Asuka. We bring up every once in a while.
Yeah.
He's gone currently, but Asuka was undefeated during her time in NXT.
That's wild.
914 days undefeated. She had to vacate the title because she got hurt and she had to move up to the main roster. In that match, she got hurt. She still didn't lose it. They
That's
weren't going
amazing.
to pull the trigger on that.
It doesn't work for me, brother. That's what
No.
Asuka says before the match.
And she went up, won the Royal Rumble, lost to Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania because that's not going to work for Charlotte. But man, I'm in love with this version of Trick Williams. And to carry another brand's world championship and main event in NXT pay-per-view, winning the TNA World Championship, I just think the impact that he has left on NXT we'll be talking about for a very long time. So I just wanted to get on here more so to give Trick Williams his flowers, but to also say that I just legacy wise, I don't know if there's another person living up to Trick Williams. And I'm super excited for what he's going to do on the main roster. I hope it's a big push. I think he's one of those guys. Correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like he should be in the Money in the Bank match. I know he's got the TNA World Championship, but that briefcase, this more edgy, I wouldn't call it heel because the
Hmm.
fans still love him. They still
Yeah.
do that trick. But that more edgy version of Trick Williams in a couple of years is the perfect guy to hold that briefcase. And the ability to reinvent yourself three different times and have three different characters that go over so well with NXT fans,
Yeah.
fans that are very fickle, by the way, because they're in the arena
Yeah.
every single week. They're the same fans. They can easily get tired of you, but they love Trick that much, and everyone else loves Trick. I'm just saying.
Man, you know, I wasn't ready for that hot take, but like you started going through it, and I'm like, yeah, you're pretty much right. Mr. Lash Legend has been cleaning up,
Straight up.
and when you point out that he wins the TNA championship, that right there whether accolades mean anything or not, um, just being that guy that they could all agree upon is going to be the person to do this and carry that championship. An NXT wrestler beating Joe Hendry and is actually going to have the TNA championship. That means a lot that he's the person that has been tasked with that responsibility, but it means that they all see something in him, not just WWE and NXT, but TNA does too. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been comfortable with that, because Trick being over and being as good as you've just been saying he is, there has to be something to that because TNA thinks that by him holding that championship, it's going to bring more eyes to them one way or another. So it wasn't Obafemi against Moose. It wasn't Fraxium against the Hardy Boys.
Very true.
You know, it was Trick versus Joe Hendry. So I kind of agree with you that when you really look at it, that's a kind of a big impact to have down in NXT and also to have two companies have that much trust in you to be able to do this big spot. That kind of means a lot. So, whether Trick turns into being a big deal on the main roster, which it'd be crazy if he didn't, but I think you're probably right about this NXT run that yeah, he might be the GOAT down there.
Yeah, and I mean, GOAT as it is in basketball. I'm a big basketball guy. You're a LeBron guy, or you're a Jordan guy, or you might even be a Kobe Bryant guy. It's very subjective. I'm sure it's the same way in hockey.
It is. You're a
So,
Gretzky guy or a Lemieux guy.
yeah.
You got people today, you're a Crosby or a McDavid. Boo to all of them. It's Gretzky.
And I mean, I'm not blaming anyone that goes Gargano, Balor, Cole. Oscar's the right answer because
Yeah.
Oscar was so cool. Like, so cool. And you could be any one of those. There is no wrong answer. I'm just so in love with this current version of Trick Williams, on top of me being a fan of him all throughout his run with Carmelo Hayes, basically his whole time in NXT. So kudos to Trick Williams and what he's able to do and what he means to NXT, because everyone thought he was moving up to the main roster,
hmm
and they said, no, we need you to actually stay down here as everyone else moves up to make sure eyes are staying on this product. And he was trusted, like you said, to bring more eyes over to TNA. So good on him.
Well, let me ask you this, Will, because that brings me into something I wanted to touch on real quick. Um, you and I kind of talked about this the other day. Is it just me, or do you guys get the same feeling that the way that they've been talking more about this WWE Evolve, and the way that they've been using NXT, that they're getting closer and closer to trying to make NXT just a third brand and having the Evolve have a more focus on the developmental? It really feels like that to me, that NXT is getting closer and closer to just being considered a third brand at this point. And if that's something that they're actively trying to do, I could see Trick being down there a little bit longer and kind of being the guy if that's what they're trying to do with having that be more of a third brand. I mean, again, the TKO comparison to Disney is not too far off because Disney's big thing was they were buying up intellectual property. They buy Marvel, they buy Star Wars, they bought Pixar back in the day, and now you have WWE, they buy AAA and they're bringing that in, but they're acquiring things. They're making this deal with TNA where they're kind of partners now and
Yeah.
not necessarily, rivals. So it's very interesting. It's just an observation that I had. I don't know how you feel about that, Will.
Yeah. So I don't disagree with you. I think NXT has its own standalone appeal.
Hmm.
You have enough titles to make it a third brand. You have enough talent. We need to stop comparing things to main roster then. NXT is just main roster.
Yeah,
And you almost, and this is tough, need to take it out of the performance center then.
right.
Because
Exactly.
you need to have it start traveling like a normal show. And then in the draft, which we have coming up apparently soon, I heard it was supposed to be a couple weekends ago when we did Saturday night's main event, and now they're moving it again to post SummerSlam or just before
Hmm.
SummerSlam. You need to then have main roster guys go down there. You
Right.
need to have them in NXT. So, are they capable of doing it? Yes. Will they do it? Probably not. It's a huge leap. It's a huge leap to then, first of all, there'll be a lot of backlash taking it out of the performance center. You have to take it out of there. That's going to cause some backlash. You put it on the road. Is it going to perform well? They just had to cancel an NXT event because it
Right.
wasn't enough numbers. So I don't know. I do believe they're putting a lot of stock into Evolve. We'll kind of see where this goes. I To be determined, Brian. To be determined.
We interrupt this episode of WWR Podcast for a Will and Brian tangent.
This is absolutely hilarious. I'm looking on Wrestle Tales. Good follow on Instagram for us wrestling fans. Here's a hot question. Do you think CM Punk will return to AEW at some point in his wrestling career? No.
No,
No. No.
no.
That's a that is not a hot question. That's just not happening. Oh my gosh. One
No.
time what I would like to do is we can go over CM Punk's departure from AEW. That would be a fun podcast. It's not a
Yeah.
retro rewatch,
Right.
but it's an interesting topic and maybe for
Yeah.
a return to WWE.
Yeah. A
Because
deep
I'm
dive.
oh man, yeah, that's a oh. You guys are hearing the process of us
Yep.
coming up with new ideas, and we have so much content to get you guys
Yep.
already that this may never happen. But yeah, do we have any retro rewatches planned?
I don't think we have any planned right
I
now,
think
not
it's on
unless
me. I'm gonna guys. I've been slacking. Okay, I have a list I need to edit.
oh
I've
yeah.
I've been editing basketball mixtapes, and I need to get you guys your list. You guys love the list,
Yeah,
and
the list
I
is
mean,
good.
I've been slacking, so I need to get us a retro rewatch. If any of you have any good ideas, comment those.
Yeah, but we can do some deep dives though. We can do
Deep
deep
dives
dive.
are that's fun.
The deep dives will be our more hard hitting. We can
I
break down.
got one.
What is it?
Montreal screw job.
Yes, that's
The
exactly
word
what I
or
was
is
gonna
it
say.
not? That's what
Exactly what I was gonna say.
we can touch on too.
Yeah,
Okay, guys, that's our next episode. If it sounds like we're wrapping it up and we have like a whole nother like
I
two
know.
minutes to comment on.
Yeah,
Guys, that's our next episode. I'm so excited for this. We're doing two deep dives.
yeah,
We are
yeah.
oh, it's not our next episode. Money in
Oh,
the
'cause we
Bank
got money in the
reviews.
bank.
Ah,
But the deep dives will be good though, because
it's
that's gonna
coming.
be,
It's coming, guys.
yeah, that'll be fun.
Yes,
Oh,
it's
man,
gonna
that yeah, that's
be
good.
so much fun. Yeah, we'll comment on the Montreal screw job, and depending on how long that takes us, maybe we'll also wrap in the CM Punk departure from AEW and how messy that was. We don't talk about AEW.
No, we don't.
Oh,
No. If it has to be two, it can be two.
it
We
can
can
be
break it
too.
up
Yeah, yeah.
because I haven't gone down the CM Punk AEW rabbit hole of what that whole kerfuffle
Oh my gosh,
was
you'll love it.
about.
You'll love it
So
because you love Phil.
Yeah, yeah, Phil's all right.
Phil is all right. I like Phil. And I did like Phil for a little bit there because he was dogging my boy Seth Rollins out. And you want to know what? If they're working together, it must not be too bad.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Okay. Sorry, guys. We went on a little bit of a
We had a
left
little
turn.
tangent there.
Yeah. Brian,
We now return you to WWR Podcast, already in progress.
take us into our next topic. You're in love with the Judgment Day storyline.
I'm in love with the Judgment Day storyline. Will is 100% right. Um, and here's why. If you think about all of the stories that we have going on right now, you have Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. You have their thing going on. They kind of have this thing going with CM Punk and Sami Zayn. Jey Uso's kind of dabbling in that, but he still has a Gunther thing going on. Um, on the women's side, we don't have any clear feuds or storylines going on. You have Becky Lynch and you have Lyra Valkyria, but when you think about even Cody Rhodes and John Cena, we all know the problems with that story. So really, when you think about what is the actually best, most entertaining storyline week to week, it's the Judgment Day stuff. Everybody in the Judgment Day, it's fun to tune in to see what's happening within that group. I know it's the most soap opera-y. You know what? It's not even soap opera. My wife and I were talking about this. Professional wrestling needs to stop being compared to a soap opera. It's a telenovela. There's a difference between a soap opera and a telenovela. Like Ruby, anybody who watches Ruby knows. If you know, you know. Like that's what this Judgment Day story is. And I love it because just when I think they're approaching the story the boilerplate way that you would approach this story to break this group up with inner turmoil and turning people against one another. Right when I think they're doing the most simple version of that, we have this past Monday night that happened, and I'll touch on it. I'll get to it what I'm talking about. But if you look at the Judgment Day, you have Finn and JD, and then you have Liv and Dom and Raquel. Finn has been unhappy with Dom for a while now. The fact that Dom won the IC championship just adds fuel to that fire, and Finn has kind of had it. But instead of just trying to kick Dom out or trying to kick somebody else out, Finn's real smart. He knows the best way to break this up is to turn those three on each other. He has to turn Liv, Raquel, and Dom against one another. So what does he do? He brings in Roxanne Perez, and she's going to be the disruptor. What does Roxanne do? Roxanne's job is to be the wedge between each one of those three. So just a couple weeks ago, when you have Liv versus Kairi Sane, you have Raquel comes down to the ring. She distracts the referee. And while she's doing that, Roxanne Perez actually pushes Kyrie off of the top turnbuckle and does help Liv. But because Raquel sees her doing that, she has to go over and confront Roxanne and tell her to leave. And because of that happening, Liv gets distracted and she loses the match. You get to the back, they're all pleading their case. And Roxanne is saying, hey, I just came out there to help you. Raquel says, you don't need to help her. You don't even need to be out there. And Liv, again, Liv's been doing a good job of showing these last couple of weeks. She can have a serious side that isn't projecting the bratty character. And she gave that dimension like 2 weeks in a row now, and I'm happy to see it. But in that particular instance, she just kind of shuts it all down and tells Raquel, you were the veteran out there. You should have known better than doing that. And she just walks away. And you go, oh, she's got she's not too happy with Raquel. So now you have Roxanne who's bringing Dom chicken nuggets and massaging his shoulders because Finn sees Dom as the easiest target. He feels like Dom is going to be the easiest one to do this to. He's just going to bring Roxanne in. She's going to give him chicken nuggets and rub his shoulders, and he's going to be in like Flint. So Liv isn't happy with Dom because Dom has been eating somebody else's nuggets. Dom isn't happy with Roxanne because he doesn't want Roxanne causing problems with him and Liv, but he keeps eating the nuggets. Then you have Liv isn't happy with Roxanne because she can see what Roxanne is trying to do. Roxanne doesn't like any of them because she's working for Finn, and Raquel doesn't like Roxanne because Roxanne came down to the ring to help, and now Liv has problems with Raquel because of that. So now we have that Spider-Man meme where they're all pointing at one another. And Finn is in the background just happy as can be because he put his little chaos agent, Roxanne Perez, into the mix, and it's working beautifully. Now that's what gets us to this week on Raw. I was telling Will ahead of time that that's a must-watch match with Liv, Stephanie Vaquer, and Ivy Nile for the Money in the Bank qualifier match. And I thought for sure what was going to happen is that Raquel would come down to the ring, try to help Liv, and get sent away to the back. Then by the end of the match, Roxanne would come out and she would actually help Liv win, and it would further drive that wedge between Liv and Raquel. That just made the most sense. It gets Liv into the Money in the Bank match because you assume she's going to be in there. That's not what happened. You have Stephanie Vaquer go over, which is crazy in and of itself that we do have Roxanne, Stephanie Vaquer, and Julia. 50% of that Money in the Bank match are all the quote call ups who I'm just as or more excited to see in that match than the other three people. And that says a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad that they did it that way on Raw because when Liv gets to the back, she's not mad that nobody came out to help her. And then later on in the night, when Raquel has her match against Kairi Sane, Liv is down there in Raquel's corner. And then Io Sky comes out and Raquel loses the match. Liv's busted open again. I don't know why I said it like that. Like, oh, can they stop hitting her? But yeah, that like she's been taking some hard bumps lately. Um, again, proving why she's messing around in there. Like she's really good at wrestling right now. Um,
She is.
but I love that they did that finish too because when they get to the back, Finn tries talking to Liv and trying to manipulate her some more, and Liv sees right through it, and she's letting him know it's not Dom that I don't trust. Finn assumes that she's talking about Roxanne, but Liv is talking about Finn is the one that she doesn't trust because she can see exactly what's going on. And I love that more because it makes her a smart character and it gives a little bit more nuance to this story. We thought that it's going one way and it's very boilerplate, very standard, which is super entertaining. But I'm really happy that they threw another wrinkle into it that Liv, Raquel, and Dom are not stupid. They're not idiots. As much as Finn thinks that they are, Liv is showing us that they understand what's going on and they may be more hip to what this plan is than Finn knows. And to me, that's very exciting to see where this story goes. And it makes sense. That's why Liv doesn't have to be in the Money in the Bank match because there's enough cooking within the Judgment Day, especially with Roxanne being in the Money in the Bank match. You can go in so many different directions. And that's why I argue, without any rebuttal from anybody, I'm sure, that the Judgment Day story right now is the best story that they have going. I'll argue the best story in wrestling right now, Tell me I'm wrong.
I'm not going to. I'm really not
Appreciate that,
going to.
Will.
And I sometimes have differing opinions from Brian, and this is just one where I'm not. And I'm a big fan of actually Jey Uso's storyline right now. It's so awesome that he feels important. He does. He's got Gunther. He has
Hmm.
Seth. He has Logan Paul. He has all these different storylines pulling him in so many different directions. And for a world champion to have that, kudos to WWE for actually booking a strong champion. Good job. But it's not this storyline. This storyline is very similar to how the Judgment Day was last summer,
Hmm.
how they were the summer before that. The summer rolls around and it's Judgment Day time. They're
Yeah.
on TV 6 times a night, it feels like.
It
Six
does.
to
Yeah.
8 times a night, seriously.
Yeah.
And they're getting segment after segment after segment. And I'm not tired of it. I'm not.
No.
All of them can wrestle. All of them tell a super compelling story. Oh, and you add Roxanne Perez to that?
Yep.
I'm in. I really am. Like you said, I could go over everything you went over. It doesn't change the point that this really is the best story in wrestling right now. I'm sorry, guys. I can't disagree with the
Yeah.
man. He's not playing. Sometimes Brian will play the Liv Morgan Homer card.
A little bit.
Not one of those times. It isn't. Like when he said, they're punching Liv. That
Yeah.
might be my favorite podcast clip. I might have to clip that one up and post it. I love that so much. I love that you do it right away too. You were
Yeah,
like,
well, I know what people are thinking.
yeah,
A homegirl has been taking a beating in these matches, but it sells her more. She's a very compelling character.
she is.
I'm
That she.
homering again.
Oh no! I mean, dude, everyone's got a favorite wrestler. Everyone's got a favorite wrestler. Some of y'all just give Brian a tough time because he loves Liv Morgan. That's his favorite wrestler. Y'all gotta stop. If if y'all want me to get started on Cody Rhodes, I'll get started, guys. This
Look,
hasn't been a compelling storyline
thank
lately.
you.
And once he is, I'm not gonna stop talking about him. That's my guy. He
I'm a
really.
Rhea Ripley fan too, but
Oh
you
yeah,
don't hear me talk nearly as much about Rhea Ripley. She she hasn't been doing anything that is interesting, and I know that might be a hot take too, because everybody loves Rhea, but what she's been doing, like, so what has she been doing?
nothing.
Nothing that's been compelling enough. Like, we have a triple threat at WrestleMania. Right. I didn't feel anything about that match except that it was three people who I was like, it'll be fun to watch them work. But there
Yeah,
was no story behind that that I was invested in. You know, like just I like a little bit more depth with some of my stories. It doesn't have to be all of them, but when it's those brightest stars, I want to see them have something behind it, which is why with Jey Uso and Gunther, I go, yeah, it's great that Jey is champion and it's always very exciting and it's fun, but it feels a lot more like back in the day with some of our retro rewatches where you get a Hogan sugar high, but what's really behind some of the feuds? Although that's not fair though, because Hogan had some decent ones, man. Our boy Quake squashed him. Um, so
Quake.
that so so that was rough. But you know what I'm saying? Like, ooh, the Quake
My
Shake.
bad, my bad. You
Get the
mentioned
Quake Shake.
you mentioned the
Ooh,
boy. I just had to
you got
get
to.
that real quick.
Gotta
I
get
had
the
to
Quake
get
Shake
that real
in.
quick.
You know,
Yeah.
but you know what I'm saying with Jey
Oh,
Uso, where there's not a lot of depth to the story, but we like him because it's always fun to see him, and it's exciting that he's the champion. Um, but it would be awesome if there was something more behind it. And I think maybe the last thing that we wanted to touch on that brings us into Paul Heyman and his group of goons.
I,
It's Seth Rollins. That there's something there, but it
yes.
hasn't caught fire yet.
And it's going to. It's
Yeah.
going to catch fire. Listen, I was just about to say that. It's not our fault, me and Brian, that we get on here and we talk about Liv Morgan and Seth Rollins
Yeah.
and the Judgment Day and Paul Heyman's new group. It's not our fault that the most compelling storylines right now don't involve our champions.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's kind of disappointing. We come off WrestleMania. You guys have John Cena on his retirement tour, and you are doing nothing with him.
Yep.
He's in a tag match with Logan Paul.
Yeah.
Logan Paul. And I don't hate Logan Paul. I really don't. I don't hate Jey Uso. I obviously don't hate Cody Rhodes. And I love John Cena. I do. But you're in the same thing with majority of our other champions. If I were to think of a champion in a compelling storyline that has depth to it and fuel to it, are you ready for this, Brian?
I know what you're going to say, but say it.
Myra Valkyria.
Woo!
That's right. Throw it
Yeah.
out, man.
Uh-huh.
Seriously, the WWE is not giving us anything with our champions recently, and that's why it feels this way. So we got to get on here and we got to talk about compelling storylines like Seth Rollins. And that does bring us to our final point. It's time to start doing things like how we used to do them. We need a powerful faction similar to the Bloodline walking around with gold.
Yep.
I want, and I think Brian is in agreement, Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed to both get the tag team titles.
Yep.
We talk about the Raw tag team division, and we talk about the SmackDown tag team division. The SmackDown tag team division is another one of those titles I'd be like, the storyline is on fire.
Yeah.
Let's add the Wyatt Six. You make them compelling. They're going for titles. They're not going for people that betrayed their family.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. They're going for this tag team division that is at turmoil against each other. And that's a compelling enough storyline for them.
Yep.
And you add the hottest tag team in professional wrestling in Fraxium, who's been putting on banger matches.
Mm-hmm.
That's a title. That's a tag team division that is on fire. Then you look at Monday Night Raw, and it is semi-brutal. The most compelling thing about the Raw tag team division is when the New Day puts on the headset and does commentary.
Yep. That's what I was going to say, too. That's been the best part.
And that's disappointing. You have the War Raiders. You have the Creed brothers, who are phenomenal wrestlers. You have legends with the belts right now, and you've done nothing with them. So put them in a group where they're a main event group, and there's plenty of content creators, the IWC, that criticize when the tag titles are hung up in the main event. Similar to how the Judgment Day did it for so long with the tag titles. You can go back to McDonough and Balor and Priest and Balor.
Yeah.
They were and Zayn and Owens. They were in the main event, and tag teams then didn't get a chance to feud against them because they're in the main event. I argue if you're not going to do anything with the titles, put them in the main event. And that's a hot take. And I know you're going to touch on it as well, but I think that people aren't necessarily going to agree with us on that. But if you disagree with that, please comment down below and tell me, how would you book a stronger division than putting the titles in the main event if the product that you've received over the last, what was it, the War Raiders that beat the Judgment Day?
Is that who they beat?
I think so.
It had to be, right?
Yeah, it would have been Balor and McDonough dropping the belts.
Yeah.
The War Raiders.
Was that the match when JD got hurt?
I think that was in their rematch.
Okay.
Yeah. And if that's so, that shows you how long this division's actually been struggling. McDonough was able to come back from that horrific injury, and there's still nothing happening with this division. So, yeah, comment down below if it's not putting the belts on Bronson Reed, and Braun Breaker, what is it then?
Yeah. I totally agree with you. We talked about it the other day and we were both kind of in agreement. We barely got the words out and we knew what the other was thinking with that. If you have this faction, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. A big, powerful faction who's kind of running the show is a tale as old as time, and there's no reason to try to rethink that now. Make make this faction mean something more with championship gold and a money in the bank briefcase is how you take this group into a power that has to be reckoned with. You put the championship belts on Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. Now you have two monsters that can go try to go through the rest of the tag division. And you also have other tag teams now that you can elevate for them to work with. So you're creating a stronger tag division by doing that. Because as you said, you're putting them in a main event spot with main event storylines. The storyline is what helps make these matches and helps make these championships mean more is when we care about the people who have them and the reasons why we want them off of them or we want them to win them. And right now, there's not a lot that's compelling with the New Day, except New Day sucks, but that's only going so far. And the
Yeah.
War Raiders have been doing War Raider things. So I think you got to get the gold onto those Heyman guys ASAP. I think Seth Rollins needs the Money in the Bank briefcase, and you need to start allocating some power to that group that they have. Otherwise, if they just keep feuding and there's no gold involved or there's nothing at stake, it it doesn't mean anything for them. There has to be something on the line that this group is a force to be reckoned with, and you have to do that with championship gold or MacGuffins like a briefcase. It has to mean something. So they got to get gold on those guys sooner rather than later.
Wouldn't it be poetic if John Cena got brought back to the the good guy side if Seth Rollins cashed in on him and he needed help to go up against this crew and Seth Rollins was his last match? Just throwing it out there. It's definitely an idea. It's something that not a lot of people have talked about because I'm going to be quite honest with you. We need to get rid of heel Cena
Yeah.
and we need to do it soon because it's just not working for me. And I know there's a lot of people that probably disagree with me on that and they're just in denial because that's their goat. And that's okay, guys. I've been in denial about bad storylines before because I love Cody Rhodes. And I was like, yeah, it's definitely okay that The Rock is putting stuff in his hand and taking shots of tequila and driving
Oh,
away in a
yeah, that
car.
was terrible.
And we made podcast on it. We
Yeah.
made a podcast on that. So we made a whole podcast on the John Cena heel turn. And looking back at it, it was a huge moment, but they TKO once again just did it
Yep.
for clicks. So
Yeah.
yeah,
They fumbled it.
we need to get the gold back on people that are here and people that are going to build compelling storylines. There's no one that does that quite like Seth Rollins. So get him the Money in the Bank briefcase. You've talked me into it. You've done it again, Brian. You've talked me
I
into it.
try.
I know. I know. I still think LA Knight has a chance, but I
Yeah.
feel like he's definitely the runner up for me now. I think it's probably Seth, LA Knight, and be oh so careful about Solo Sikoa grabbing that briefcase. They're in love with what he's doing right
Mm.
now, everyone. They WWE loves Solo Sikoa. They trust him. They put him in the main event before. Now, can they do that now with the state of their championships? I don't know. And if he wins it on Saturday, I couldn't tell you after the week that WWE has had, the reaction that a solo Sikoa could get. They're probably going to play it safe here. I would guess Seth Rollins or LA Knight would be
Yeah,
the only people that could spark a positive reaction from the crowd. Don't be surprised if Money in the Bank is a whole lot of fan pleasing moments because everything that has happened over the past few
right.
weeks, all the releases. They want a positive reaction from the crowd. That's why they trotted out Mariah May tonight because they needed a positive reaction. They needed clicks in a good way. And they received that from Mariah May, and rightfully so. So it's definitely an interesting time here in wrestling. Like I
Yeah,
said, I feel as if this slope is going down, but we are just going down. We can easily go
yeah,
back up. And we talk about all these times in wrestling where we go up and down and up and down. There's been plenty of times in wrestling after WrestleMania 39, we thought, oh my gosh, Cody not winning that title. That was insane. He needed that title. Roman's a part time champion. And then we got such an amazing moment with Jimmy turning on Roman at Night of
yep.
Champions. And we had an amazing storyline all the way up to WrestleMania 40. So don't be shocked here if WWE is able to take this downhill slope and push it back up right away because Mariah May joining WWE is the perfect start to that.
You know, I think the only thing that I can add is it's too bad that our truth is gone because he probably did the best at trying to sell this John Cena heel story with his promo before Saturday night's main event when he
Amen.
said, you want to ruin professional wrestling. Well, in order to save professional wrestling, I got to save John Cena. And he made it kind of make sense. And we were rooting for our truth because what he just said made sense. You just can't go out and save professional wrestling. We got to save John Cena first. We got to
Yeah.
bring him back. And they fumbled the turn so much that it's going to make the turn back not mean as much. So hopefully they can find a way, like you said, to correct that. So when it does happen, it means something. And maybe that meaning something is that maybe the real threat to professional wrestling is Paul Heyman and his Seth Rollins group or something. You know, like they have to find a way to turn that around, but you got to start giving more power to that group and making them the number one focus and not heel John Cena and what's going on because they feel very disconnected now. We got to get these stories back together.
Yeah. I think we've almost just talked ourselves into realizing that WWE is in a tough spot.
Yeah.
It's really easy to rebound off
Yep.
of. So, and it sucks our truth's gone. It
Yeah.
really does. I feel bad for Carlito too, but Truth is my guy. We've given him so much praise on this podcast. It would be absolutely hilarious if John Cena maybe came out to our Truth theme song, or if he really wanted to continue this heel storyline, or he just showed up on SmackDown and accidentally forgot he was released, or something that
Oh, that would be
bullshit.
amazing.
Yeah, just
That would be funny.
I'm in denial of it. I'm in
Yeah.
denial that he's gone. He's gone. But, you know, shout out our Truth Man. He was one of our first overrated, underrated episodes,
Yep.
which is another episode we got to get the fans, man.
Yeah.
It's me and Brian, we hop on here as much as we can to get you guys content. And shout out to Brian because he edits through all of it. And
Oh, that's the fun part.
yeah, he's got the podcast on his back right now. He really does. So shout out to Brian, man.
Hey, we're working it here, you guys.
Yeah, we are. We love doing this and we love you guys and we
Yep.
appreciate you sticking through this one with us. It's one of those episodes where we're kind of all over the place.
Yep.
But that's kind of when we're at our best and what we like doing, and we know that's what you guys like to hear every once in a while. It's just our thoughts on the current state of professional wrestling, and we always enjoy bringing it to you guys every episode. Brian, you got anything else for him?
Yeah, we're gonna give it to you guys straight. Like we've said it a million times. We're just like you guys. We're just fans that are talking about it, and sometimes it helps to hear somebody else saying the same things that you're thinking, and we're always going to keep it 100. So, we're always
Yep.
going to give it to you guys straight with how we feel about it. So, came off a little bit negative, but that's the great thing about professional wrestling. We're always waiting for the next turn, and that's what makes it great. So, everybody go head over to the Realm Paranormal podcast before I forget to tell you that. The link's down below. We got some stuff coming up, folks, so you're going to want to see it.
And the TikTok is also down below. I called myself out. So if that is not up on YouTube and that's not up on TikTok within the next 24 hours, please grill me in the comment section down below. Absolutely make fun of me because it's going to be out, and I hope you guys enjoy this list.
Good list.
It's ranking Intercontinental Champions.
Yes.
So you guys should be looking forward to that and looking forward to our next episodes, which we mentioned earlier. So
Yep.
Until next time, guys, I'm Will. That's my guy, Brian. We love you guys. We're out.
Peace.
He fell over the top rope. Oh, okay. Maybe you can throw in the clip where AJ Francis falls over the top rope or something.
Okay.
It's a pretty good.
I'll find it.
Good botch.
What? Oh, it's a botch?
Oh yeah, his name was Top Dollar. He was with Shante the Adonis. NXT?
No.
No, okay. He's like kind of in the he's kind of buried in the mid card. No disrespect to you, Mr. Adonis, if you're watching. He figured out later though, this is kind of crazy, that he was actually, because of that, he had to go get checked out by the medical team because they were like, why did you just completely not clear the top rope? And that's something you do every week. He was diabetic.
Oh, wow.
That out. So shout out to all my diabetic people. I'm there with you. It's one diabetic to another. We can still make fun of each other sometimes when we do crazy things. So I'm sure if AJ Francis knew that I passed on my car, he'd be like, yeah, dude, you should probably take care of that. So.